I told you I'll be right back. Here I am. Well, it started as a campaign promise, a pledge to chiefs and people of the Northern, Volta, Bonohafo and Western regions that new regions will be created for them. It was argued prior to 2016 elections that new regions carved out of these large areas will hasten development. That was the promise of the New Patriotic Party before the 2016 election. Well, the then governing NDC also made a similar promise. The process to create the new regions is currently at an advanced stage as the Commission of Inquiry appointed by President Akufo-Addo to examine evidence to be presented by petitioners today started its work. Hearing from the chiefs of the Western region, we will tell you more about the basis for their demand for a new region. But first, we can take a listen to Chairman of the Commission, Justice Stephen Alan Brobe, as he formally opened the Commission today.
Into the need and substantial demand for the creation of new regions and thereby the alteration of the Western region, Bonohafo region, Northern region and Volta region. B, to make recommendations to the President based on his findings on the creation and alteration of regions. And C, lastly, to specify the issues to be determined by referendum and the places where the referendum should be held, where it makes recommendations for the creation and alteration of regions, quotation ends. The purpose of today's meeting is to afford the Commission the opportunity to hear at first hand from persons who have submitted petitions for the creation of regions.
Justice Brobe there. JoyNews' Joseph Akablay was at the Commission's hearing today. He joins me now in the studio. We're going to find out how many petitioners, perhaps, for example, will be engaging, or will the Commission be engaging? Joseph, you're welcome. I see a lot of papers. This is indeed a lot of this is indeed a lot of work. So tell us about how many. We know that the Western, the Bonohafo, which other region?
We also have Volta.
The Volta region.
And the Northern region as well.
Right. Some of the people that they will be engaging. But if we should put it all together, how many people, for example, will the Commission be engaging?
So there are 6 petitions that are before the Commission, even though it is calling for creation of 4 regions. The reason being that from the Bonohafo alone, you have 2 petitions coming from that area.
Okay.
Whilst when you pick that of the Northern region, there are 2 petitions, one coming from the Gonja land, or the other coming from the northern part, the Mampugu area. So that is why we have the number being 6, and the Commission today started with that of Western region.
But this comes under the supervision of the Minister for Regional Reorganization, and we know that he's been given some assurances. Tell us about it.
He says that, this is an independent work that is being carried out by the Commission. He is just the facilitator. They are providing the logistics needed by the Commission. They are also to make funds available for the EC to undertake the referendum, and he is assuring that all those preparations are well in place so that we have a smooth process.
It will certainly be in place, especially since this is an NPP promise made, actually, so it wouldn't.
In fact, that was one issue that came up. He says that he quoted parts of the NDC manifesto which also captured that. So he says that it appears that it has been a call that has been on for long. But even though the MPP promised, they could have gone ahead to start the constitutional provision, Article 5. It says that the President can initiate the process on his own or upon receipt of a petition. But this time around, the President rather opted for the petition line instead of instituting it on his own. But we can hear the regional minister as the Minister for Regional Reorganization. That's a mouthful.
Don't get that right. It is.
Talk about
well, that's the Bojo we're talking about. We can hear him, and when we come back, we'll tell you what happened today at the Commission's hearing.
The funds are available. It's a major commitment that government has made. The Home Ministry has been created to undertake to oversee the process. So there'll be funds available. Like any government endeavor, anything of national interest, there should be funds to cater for it. So the major funds, as I explained last week, will be the the electoral process. Yeah, that would be about the major thing. Other than that, that's what they are doing today, and maybe the setting they are having there when they move to their regions, this transportation that we are talking of, is it accommodation where the commissioners will sleep? I don't think that's what we are all talking of. We are worried about.
Okay, Dan Boche there, he's the minister responsible for this reorganization. If we do get it done, and it looks like it will pretty much get done, but we know also that they're being led by chiefs who are from the northern part of the region. What do we know about those from the south? Akable, tell us.
So I tried to engage the Western Regional Minister, Dr. Kwekwe Friye, because he is the minister for the whole of the Western region as it stands. Okay. But when the split happens, it will mean that the northern part will be moving
we'll have a different minister.
Whether he will be moved to that side or he will be remain at the south. So I tried to understand from him the kind of engagement he has had with those in the southern part of the Western region.
Or whether or not there could be one minister for two regions.
Exactly, possibly. I mean, if you want to save cost. Whether those in the south are comfortable with all what is going on. And he says they have their full support, even though they are a bit unhappy, like a parent whose children is moving to school.
Okay, if you're unhappy, then why do it? But let's hear from the minister himself.
Depends upon how you look at about this. The best analogy, and it was given by a chief, they support the creation of the Western or the Southern chiefs, a chief from Nzema area, which is in the south. He said, like, this separation is like when you are sending your, somebody comes to marry your daughter. You know that your daughter is of age and must be married. You don't want your daughter to be a spinster forever. But certainly, the day that your daughter is packing bag and baggage and going to join the husband, you feel a bit touched. Is that not so? Another analogy is that you know that when you are sending your ward, your son, to the university, you know that the university is good for your son. But when he leaves the house that day, even though you know he's going to acquire skills and knowledge, you still feel a bit, you know, emotional about it. So that is how, as for the Western region, we are one. We have a lingua franca, and our division is just administrative, period. And in fact, we
will not divide the
region. No, we are not dividing anybody. We were once part of Central and Western region. We're part of the Western province. And my God, when the Central region was hived out of the Western, this thing didn't arise.
But so the difference is that those in the Central are a bit very different from those in the Western. If you pick the Western region, there is some kind of link.
No. But you see, our language is a variant of the Akan language. It's a spectrum. I come from the extreme end of the spectrum. That's why when I speak Sewi, you do not understand. But the Akan language flows from the Central region, Ashanti, Bronga, Hafo, Western, parts of even Volta region, and then goes to even La Côte d'Ivoire, the Baoués and the Agnis. When they speak their language, me, I understand. I speak perfect Agni, but I'm a Sefi. So I'm well placed. So Ahanta, yes, I speak, or I can understand Ahanta. And then Nzema, I understand. The only people who are a bit mainstream Akan are the Wasa people. But we share so many attributes with them.
Okay, so that is the minister, the Western Regional Minister there. And I'm hoping really that we will be able to cut costs with this so that we'll perhaps be able to still have one minister. So we don't have to buy V8 for two different people managing one, what hitherto was one region.
The other issue too has to do with the referendum. I mean, the threshold is very tough. First, they need 50% of the people in the area need to participate in the referendum. Then you need 80% of them agreeing to separation.
Okay, so it's still a long way to go.
It's a long way to
well,
go. Let's
look at what happened at the hearing. If it was in camera, we know, but do we have any information on the kind of arguments that were made?
We understand there are three main issues. The first, they are saying that the region is far too big. I'm quoting them directly.
And which region is this?
That's the Western region.
The Western
region.
Okay.
I told it's far too big. In fact, they told the committee that Osei Kojokrom, which is a part in the upper part of the Western region, all the way to Sekenita, they are saying that the distance, 380 kilometers. Now they are saying that it doesn't work that way. You can't have the administrative capital in Sekenita, where you know that in terms of passport application, we have regional centers. So if someone is in the upper part of the Western region and wants to apply for passport, it needs to come all the way down. Sometimes they say they have to even go to Central region to come down to the same Western region. So they feel that they may have a better system. if they have another region in place. The second issue, they say that ineffective supervision and monitoring because of the number. So you don't have few supervisors looking at all the districts in the same region. But if there's another region, it means that we'll have another set of supervisors taking care of another 10 districts that will be created as a result of the new region. The final issue, they talk about the population growth. They say that when Ghana became independent, when we created the Western region sometime in 1984, subsequently, it was a little over 1 million, but now we have more than 2 million individuals in the Western region, which means that the population has increased, but they want to address it and think that it will be better governed if we have another region carved out.
Okay, so today they had only the part of the
region,
the Western region. How did you, from the body language of the chiefs that were there, what do you read from their body language?
You get a sense that this is something that they are excited about and it's something that they really want. And what is interesting is that all these are chiefs from traditional areas. There's 7 traditional areas within the northern part of the region. So it's more or less like a class action, if you can put it that way. So from their body language, they are hoping they will present the argument to be taken by the commission. The commission will advise that the referendum should take place.
Let's look at, briefly look at the background to this. I mean, if we look back at history, if they are saying that the Western region is far too big, Ghana has had far bigger regions. So is that, I don't know, but if we can go through a little bit of the history.
It's accurate to say Ghana has had far too big, because at independence, we started with just 5 regions. So we had the Ashanti, that Ashanti region included the Brown region as we have it today. So
which was way bigger, exactly.
We also had the Eastern, then we had Western, Northern region, and Volta region. That was at 6th March 1957. These were the 5 regions we started with. Our population was somewhere around 4 million. But then in 1959, we then split the Ashanti region into 2. So we had the Brown separate, the Ashanti region separate. 1960, we split the northern region. At that point, the northern region included the upper regions. So we split it into 2. Then we had one upper region.
East.
It was a first split. We had upper region, then we had the northern region. Before subsequently, we separated the upper region into 2, making upper west and upper east subsequently. And that's how come we ended with the number 10 that we have as of now. So it tells you that it appears the trend has been that we try to divide the bigger ones and make them smaller.
And I'm not particularly sure if that has made our lots any better.
Well, that is a fair argument for anyone to advance. In fact, I put that to the minister, the reorganization minister, and his explanation was to the effect that if you go to these areas, where the split has taken place, he says if you compare the original capital to when they were together, you know that place, at least some development has taken place there. So the thinking is that if you have another region in fact, the regional minister for Western region, he says that Greater Accra, that doesn't generate so much resource, has developed so much, and that should tell you that it's because the capital is here. So if you have another region, by virtue of citing a capital, a lot of things that you put over there administratively, and that in itself improves it. But it will definitely come with cost, like you say, and we just
certainly
the taxpayer will be buried it once again.
And my personal view is that if you know the right thing to do to develop places, develop it. You don't necessarily need to break it down further to develop. But maybe that's just been oversimplifying the issue. But we wait to see how it all goes. Thank you so much, Joseph. Joseph Akable has been stalking the commission and has brought us that very authentic report.